All America, all the time. Sit down, buckle up, and get ready for The Dan Bongino Show.
You know, when I was actively involved in politics in Maryland, I'm walking out of an event one time, right? And this very, very smart older gentleman who'd been involved in Maryland politics on the Republican side for probably close to 30 years. He says to me, I'm going to tell you something. I watched your speech inside. He said, I liked it. It's very good. He said, but one of the things I'd encourage you to do is avoid assertions and ask more questions. I said, really? Why is that? He said, because when you ask a human being a question, no matter what, even if they hate you, the human mind can't stop trying to answer the question, no matter what. It just engages the mind better than an assertion. He says, if you're talking to a voter who may lean a little liberal, but may be open to voting for you, he's like, if you just make an assertion to them, hey, big government sucks, they go, I don't want to hear it, earmuffs. But if you ask them a question, tell me how big government's worked for you, it'll engage them. And I thought, that's genius. And I don't know, how long when I run for office, 15 years ago or something like that? I've practiced that ever since. So I put in the headline today, and then on social media, MAGA Civil War or liberal media BS. And I'll answer it for you right now. It is obviously liberal media BS. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no MAGA Civil War going on. I don't know how many polls, whether they're CNN, Harry Enton polls, Real Clear Politics. I have a poll coming up. I'll show you a bunch of them. Receipts matter. There is no civil war in the MAGA movement. I'm not telling you that there's not disagreements about significant policies in the MAGA movement, from tariffs to Iran to our dealings with Israel. Of course there are disagreements. But you suggesting there's some kind of massive civil war getting ready to fracture us like San Andreas Fault, you have to back that up. You made the assertion, not me. If you're telling me there's a civil war, back it up. Show me some substance. The answer is you can't. Because the polling data, when you ask real people in the real world, shows overwhelming majorities of Republicans support this president's policies. I'm just telling you, bro, those are the facts. You make the assertion, back it up. I've got a bunch of stuff for you today. Please don't fall for this, because the liberal media is fertilizing this ground of the pseudo-MAGA civil war because there's nothing they want more. They want a civil war. They want us in the cannibalism theory. You know cannibalism theory. I talk about it all the time. How the left, whenever they win elections, because there's power in canceling people, they start to cancel themselves on the left side. Don't do that. Don't pay back the favor by doing that here. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, with Dan Kane this morning, gave an amazing briefing. I'm going to play a little bit of that. I've got a big show for you today. Folks, today's show brought to you by Brickhouse Nutrition, brickhousenutrition.com. Go pick up Lean today if you have a few pounds to lose. I did. I used the product LEAN, brickhousenutrition.com/Dan. Check it out. Today's show also brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Every time I say Patriot Mobile, I say it so dramatically. Hey, it's a critical moment for our country. The opposition's growing really aggressive. They're not apologizing at all. And the fight is now reaching into everyday decisions we make. Patriot Mobile has been standing on the front lines with us, fighting for freedom for more than 12 years. An amazing company, incredible company. They don't just deliver top-tier wireless service. They're activists like me who truly care about the country, and they're not shy about it at all. Support companies that support us and our values. Patriot Mobile is one of them. They give you prioritized premium access on all three major networks, giving you the same or better coverage than the main carriers. Can't beat that. Means fast speeds and dependable nationwide coverage backed by 100% U.S.-based customer support. They also offer unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, and more. With simple, seamless activation, you can switch in minutes. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. And here's the difference. When you switch to Patriot Mobile, you'll support a company who provides a powerful stream of giving to help the Christian conservative movement. Yes. Good for you, Patriot Mobile. Take a stand today. Go to patriotmobile.com/Dan or call 972-PATRIOT and use promo code Dan for a free month of service. Don't wait. That's patriotmobile.com/Dan or call 972-PATRIOT. Thank you, Patriot Mobile. Fellas, got Justin, man, in the con today. Guy looking over his shoulder like this, intently watching, observing. watching, judging. He's got his Don't Get Dead shirt on, the judging, watching. Okay, so Secretary of War Pete Hegseth gave a briefing this morning, and I want you to pay very close attention. I have two short snippets from it, but they're, I think, the most important. The whole thing was important. These, I think, are the most important to get out there. Folks, you cannot wage a war as a foreign adversary of the United States, as any country. You cannot wage a war without command, control, and communications. Now, look at those 3 C's. Command. Do they have command? They're all freaking dead. I'm just telling you the obvious. We wiped out their entire hierarchy of upper-level mullah leadership. You're now getting into kind of the mid-level leadership, and they're going to be wiped out soon, too. President Trump even said as much yesterday. They don't have command because the command of the IRGC and elsewhere, their special units, their police forces are dead. So command, no good. Control. If you don't have command, you certainly don't have control because there's nobody to control because the command is dead. Every time someone steps in to take control after a previous commander stepped in and is wiped out, that person dies too. It is very difficult to maintain command or control without command and no control because you're dead. And the threat of death is on the horizon. When you're worried about dying, you're not so much worried about tactical deployments. Finally, communications. They don't have communications. Folks, I can't go into too many intimate details given kind of the things I was exposed to. However, it is very difficult, and I think this is fairly obvious. You can read about it in open source. It is very difficult for Iranian commanders trying to control their military. You get what I did there, right? If you can't communicate, because every time you communicate, it doesn't really work out. They have none. It has led to total chaos. Now, we're not even a week in yet. Again, I don't want to jump to either side. We're not doing mission accomplished bullshit. All I've asked respectfully, and I mean it, to opponents of the military strikes, I'm not kidding. I respect your opinions. I'm glad we're not a bunch of robots. I've got Shawn Davis from the Federalist on later. I love, good friend of mine. Has some different opinions from me, but filibuster, other things, that's fine. That's fine. That's the best part about being a conservative. Is we're not freaking robots like the left. However, all I ask is that if you're going to judge the movie in total, just wait for the movie to end. It's fair to you to, and by the way, maybe you think the beginning of the movie sucked. I saw a movie once about where I forget the movie. I went down when I was in Fletzy in Georgia. The first half an hour was terrible. I almost left and rescued itself. But I'm free to say it's a good movie, but the first half an hour sucked. You may not like the beginning. That's okay. But if you're going to judge the whole movie, just wait for the movie to end. And we're not even a week in. This is Secretary of War Hegseth this morning talking about those 3 C's I told you about, command, control, and communication, and how it's like scripting a football game as the offensive coordinator, basically wiping out the coach and everyone else. Now no one even knows how to get in the huddle anymore. This is a great analogy. Check this out.
We will avenge them, no doubt. But I liken Iran's predicament to a football team who scripted the first 20 plays of a game. The team knew what plays to run because their first few drives were scripted. But now that the game has started and the blitz is on, they don't know what plays to call, let alone how to get in the huddle and call those plays. Iran's senior leaders are dead. The so-called governing council that might have selected a successor, dead, missing, or cowering in bunkers, too terrified to even occupy the same room. Senior generals, mid-level officers, enlisted ranks, they can't talk or communicate, let alone mount a coordinated and sustained offensive. That's not great for morale. The Iranian Air Force is no more, built for 1996, destroyed in 2026. The Iranian Navy rests at the bottom of the Persian Gulf. Combat ineffective, decimated, destroyed, defeated, pick your adjective.
One of many 63 in the chat. Dan, I'm totally anti-war, but some people just need to be blown up. Try to pick the best chats of the day. One of many 63. I'm with you. Everybody's anti-war. I'm not trying to be an asshole about it, but nobody likes war. Sometimes, unfortunately, in a complicated world full of real evil, demons, and I'm telling you that, folks, evil is real. It is not some, fantasy you read about in some fairy tale in third grade. It is very real. And in a world full of evil, sometimes good men have to step up and stop that stuff by aggression and violence. We wish it weren't the case, but it is. How many people are they gonna kill? How many times are we gonna let them threaten us with a potential nuclear weapon? Do you understand this is one of the things I'd like, and I'm gonna play another clip of Secretary Hegseth in a second, so this is a good one too, about what complete control of the skies actually means. Remember, command, control, communications. You're missing one of those three, your war effort's screwed. You're missing all three, you are in real freaking trouble. I'm just telling you, having spent a good year involved in this stuff. Folks, these Iranian mullahs get a nuclear weapon. There's not going to be a negotiation. There's not going to be a negotiation. You know that Netflix movie, the Catherine Bigelow movie about the nuclear strike? It's exaggerated, a lot of it. I get it. However, if you watch the movie, I think it's interesting. It's one of those movies, again, where that's one of those movies where the beginning's great and the ending, I think, was terrible. So you can judge a whole movie, but you still got to wait to the end. Oh, this is awesome. And then it ends and you're like, what? You know the movie I'm talking about? I don't remember the name. But I saw it in D.C. with Paula. Interesting movie, exaggerated if you understand how the whole system works and everything. But it's about a real nuclear strike, what it would look like, and how quickly all this goes down. Folks, if they get a nuclear weapon, there's nothing stopping them from using it. They don't practice or intend on practicing the former Iranian mullah regime, mutually assured destruction. They're not worried about dying at all. It's just assured destruction to them. They don't care about the mutual part. They don't care about their people. They don't care about dying. They will launch a nuclear weapon at us the second they get it because they can. That's it. Well, why would they do that? That's dumb. Because they're evil. I just said that. President Trump has clearly laid out with Secretary Rubio and Secretary Hegseth that their efforts to build a ballistic missile and drone-shielded nuclear program that would basically make it asymmetric warfare for us taking it out in the future is just not going to happen. We're taking it out now. You may not like the beginning of that movie in the Republican Party. I don't care what the lefties think in the Republican Party. That's fine. Have it out. Respectfully, I'm open to it. However, I agree. Folks, the United States military has completely wiped out. I want you to understand the battle damage assessments here are off the charts, okay? The Iranians had their air defense systems supplied by other foreign adversaries of the United States. The Russians. There's stories in the Wall Street Journal and other outlets about China's efforts to arm Iran with anti-ship missiles that can take out some of our ships right off their shores there. This is a real problem. A real problem. President Trump acted decisively now to head off what could potentially be nuclear hostilities and a world war later. And I'll bring China into this mix in a second. But I want you to understand the complete, I don't even know how to describe it, disappointment, which seems like understatement of the millennia, that the Iranian mullahs and their military must have, that they invested all of this money and time in an air defense system from the Russians and weaponry from the Chinese that totally shit the bed. Totally. Completely. We have dominated their skies. They look up in Iran right now, and all they're seeing is U.S. and IDF forces. There are no Iranian forces in the sky of any significance whatsoever. They have drones, and they're still launching their ballistic missiles, which is going down every day, because every time a launcher pops up, they know the location, big neon lights go off, boom, dead. Height is might. Height is might tactically. Height is might if you're a sniper. Height is might from the skies when it comes to airborne bombardment. Height is might. You control the skies, you control the country. Here's Secretary Hegseth just a few minutes ago talking about how we have complete air dominance right now. Check this out.
In a few days, in under a week, the two most powerful air forces in the world will have complete control of Iranian skies, uncontested airspace. I hope all the folks watching understand what uncontested airspace and complete control means. It means we will fly all day, all night, day and night, finding, fixing, and finishing the missiles and defense industrial base of the Iranian military, finding and fixing their leaders and their military leaders, flying over Tehran, flying over Iran, flying over their capital, flying over the IRGC, Iranian leaders looking up and seeing only U.S. and Israeli air power every minute of every day until we decide it's over. And Iran will be able to do nothing about it.
Folks, sometimes I say this stuff and I regret not going into it further. You know, why is height might? Well, for fairly obvious reasons. I mean, just think about it. Look at it from a sniper perspective. If you're a sniper behind a wall on a hill shooting down, the bullets can go down, simple physics, gravity down, right? However, if you're shooting up at the sniper in the sniper's nest, the bullet's not going to go up and, at least not now until technology gets better, if it ever gets. The bullet's not going to go up and around and over the wall. It doesn't work that way. Height is might also for very simple reasons. Forget physics, just common sense. Human beings can't fly. You can interdict a target on the ground because you can walk there and at least you have a shot. If you don't have the ability to get your aircraft airborne and your ballistic missile launchers, silos, and storage sites were taken out, you have nothing to fly into the sky to interdict that U.S. target. It's just simple common sense. Ask Obi-Wan, because it's always got to be like a Star Wars. These guys are all Star Wars guys, everyone. I think it was like on the application process. Did we have a box? Are you a fan of Star Wars? All of them seem they love it. They should do a Star Wars show on the weekend, these guys. Height is might. Dominate the skies. You dominate the military exercise. Folks, the early days of this have gone very well. The book is still open. The movie is not over. I understand that. Please do not ever assume on this show that we're telling you, oh, shut your mouth. I don't want to hear that. No, absolutely no one on this show is saying that. I told you, I ran for office against long-term presence in Iraq and Afghanistan and elsewhere. I've spoken about it at length. However, we're not in the long-term or the medium-term stage yet. We're in the short-term. And I think President Trump has been clear over time. He does not support nation building. He has already told the Iranians in absolutely no uncertain terms, it is yours to take over this country. This is your opportunity. Those are his words. He's not going to be nation building. Folks, I got to ask a favor of you. You know I hate doing that. I need you to be really, really hyper aware, antenna up, for foreign influence operations using social media, trying to divide and conquer the MAGA coalition from within. Notice I said in advance, so you don't, please do not confuse the two. I love the fact that the Republican, conservative, libertarian, old school establishment, GOP, MAGA coalition, not always the same thing. Sometimes they are. Maybe on issues like taxes, certainly not on foreign hostilities, war. I love it that we can talk amongst ourselves and check ourselves. I love that. What I freaking hate is foreign enemies of the United States taking advantage of that and in essence plumping up divisions within us that don't really exist at that level. They exist on the issues, not, oh, this guy's out of. I hate it. I'm going to bring some receipts and show you here exactly what's going on. Do not fall for it. The liberal media love this stuff. There's a symbiote out there of paid doomers. They don't have any principles at all. Paid doomers dividing up the right. The liberal media and foreign adversaries making sure money is flush and available for all those people to tell you basically to go against the Trump administration on anything they do. Please don't fall for it. Now, I told you yesterday, I was going to prove to you that the MAGA Civil War, air quotes, is bullshit. It's not real. Bring the receipts. Well, here's a Tom Bevan tweet. He runs Real Clear Politics. Good guy. As a point of reference, 5 polls are out in Operation Epic Fury. Polls, these are points of reference, folks. Data, correct? Not trying to be a smartass. It's just true. On average, 72.2% of Republicans approve of Trump's actions, and only 14% disapprove. The rest are unsure, have no opinion. Guys, ladies, listen, receipts matter. I know that word drives people crazy, but it's true. If you can't produce a receipt about your purchase, then you can't prove the purchase happened. This is a receipt. You're asking actual people in the Republican Party. How do you feel about it? 72%? Okay, we're at the early stages. We shouldn't jump to conclusions. Fine. But I'm in favor. That's just a fact. Would that sound like a MAGA Civil War to you? 72%. Here you go. There's the Real Clear Politics average right there. 72% is a lot. You ask a bunch of school kids if they want homework. You may get more kids. You always get the nerds in the class, right? What do you think we are, nerds? Remember Rocky IV? That's my dad. I know. What do you think we are, nerds? There's always nerds. Always nerds. I was actually a little nerdy sometimes in 7th grade. 8th grade, I got a little unnerdy. Just a little. 72%. Dad, that's one tweet, 5 polls. Here's another one I just saw this morning before we got on the air. This didn't take long. Body of Sargon. Here's another one. New polls show an overwhelming majority of Republicans support the president's strike in Iran. Don't buy the media lies. MAGA's not split on the issue at all. It's noisy influencers pretending to represent MAGA who have split yet again. She says again because this is important. Every single issue President Trump puts out there. Thank you. Got CBS poll on the screen now. If you're watching on Rumble, check it out if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. Every single thing Trump does, you see this conglomerate of liberal media jerkwads, doomers, paid doomers. I'm not talking about, you're free to be a doomer all you want. I'm talking about the paid doomers, and you know what I'm talking about. And foreign money flowing in, adversaries of the United States, exacerbating these divisions. Folks, this stuff is real. Here's a tweet I saw yesterday from Visegrad. Foreign adversaries pumping money into this artificial division to make the Grand Canyon seem even wider in the MAGA coalition. It's not there. There are tiny little splits. It's interesting to see this tweet notes how Chinese propaganda accounts marry anti-Semitism and anti-American narratives in their propaganda. Chinese MSS and its faithful propagandists, they point out this account, have gone all out. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea truly is the axis of evil. China loves this stuff. You're free to have an opinion on whatever you want. Israel, Iran, gold, tariffs, whatever. But a lot of this stuff is paid bullshit. And I'm just begging you, get those antennae up and learn to see through it. Here's another tweet I saw about exactly this thing that points out some specific tweets about these agitprop campaigns meant to divide up our routine. Jerry Dunleavy. Jerry's a good reporter. New. CCP-run propaganda outlets are promoting the anti-Iran war protests in the U.S., organized by the Singham Network with CCP, Chinese Communist Party, specifically pushing imagery from the Answer Coalition and the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and quoting People's Forum leaders. They have the actual propaganda. Again, have whatever opinion you like. It's a republic. But if you're a paid propagandist or a foreign government, I just want you to see through it. It's there. It's just the news. Chinese state-run media promotes anti-war protests organized by CCP-linked Singham Network. Folks, this stuff is real. This stuff is real. You just have to have a good antenna for it. And the reason is you're never going to formulate a good output, a solid voting opinion on what you should do if the inputs are corrupted by foreign money pumped in there. You can't have corrupted inputs. These people make stuff up. I was part of it. They had this that jerkwad account I pointed out last week, put out some post. When Dan Bongino ran for office, he got $6 million from AIPAC. Folks, when I ran for office, we didn't even raise $6 million total, number one. So it's a fairly obvious math problem. Second, you can go to the FEC website, Federal Elections Commission, and look that up. And you'll see that that's totally, completely ridiculous. Absurd. You can look yourself. Don't take my word for it. But they know no one will do it. So they put that out there to try it again. You're entitled to say, hate my guts. Go for it. However, the input that I took $6 million from AIPAC is complete, total bullshit. Oh, there it is. Look, $6 million. Received $6 million. That's interesting. So go to the FEC website and find that. My $6 million. I'll give you $6 million if you could find it. That's how confident I am. I'll try to make it cash. You got to pay the taxes. You get very rich really quick. It's all made up, the whole thing. Yeah, that's not a bad picture, though. Can you guys take that picture? Is it AI generated? Yeah, Justin just said it. It's not bad. I got a face for radio. Well, thank you, guys. Except the whole thing is bullshit, but it is not. If you're watching on Apple and Spotify, check that out. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Chat, let me know what you think. I don't know. Justin said a nice thing. Here, now, video matters. Video receipts. Hat tip Nate Friedman from the Nate Friedman Show. He goes out to one of these protests. Protest the war all you want. You have the God-given big R right to assemble. But don't bullshit people. A lot of these anti-war protests are not people who are really anti-war. They're people who are being paid by Soros-aligned groups and others to protest the war. Don't bullshit people. I'm not being paid to promote anything except the sponsors on the show who sponsor the show and an ad-supported show to keep it free. It's been the business model of media for years. Nobody tells me my opinion. No one. And if you dare, you're off the show. Period. Hat tip Nate Friedman. It's about 1:30, but it's worth your time. Watch this guy, this podcaster. He does a great job. He goes up to these protests and starts asking basic questions like, hey, who's funding this stuff? They melt like cheese on a hot sidewalk in Florida. Check this out.
All right, so you can see that none of this is grassroots. This is all paid for. Hey, how you doing, guys? Where are we headed with these signs?
We're good, William.
Where are we going here? You guys are saying that this is grassroots, but this does not look very grassroots. You guys doing this for free? Show this to people that say that any of this is grassroots. Show it to them. Show them this clip. So all these signs that you see laid out right here are going to Columbus Circle for a protest that Roy Neville Singham is paying for, okay? A CCP billionaire who's trying to sow division into this country. He needs to be looked at, Roy Neville Singham. Oh, here we go, more signs. Oh my God, is this enough, guys? Wow. So let's just see roughly how many signs these are. They all say PSL. Probably George Soros is involved with PSL.
PSL's fiscal sponsor is the Progress Unity Fund, and we know from last episode that the sponsor of the Progress Unity Fund is the Tides Foundation. George Soros gave the Tides Foundation $40 million.
Answer Coalition, Progress Unity Fund. If you look at this over here, you can see answercoalition.org, which is funded by the Progress Unity Fund, which is funded by George Soros. So you got George Soros and you got Roy Neville Singham funding millions of dollars into this country, trying to sow division. And now everyone will see that none of this is natural. It comes from an office that he owns called the People's Forum.
It's not, look at me. Listen, hat tip Nate Friedman. Please, look, I heard a couple people in the chat say they really like this guy. Thank him. Don't thank me. Thank him. It's not real. All this black pill doomer bullshit, not all of it, a significant chunk of it is bullshit. This kid's packing so many receipts on us. I just showed you, 5+ polls? So when you're on social media and elsewhere and you see the bot brigade out there, with all their bullshit comments, we hate the Jews, or whatever. I'm telling you, it's AstroTurf. Folks, we've been on the air a little over a month now. We've racked up over 25 million views on Rumble alone. That doesn't factor in the videos only on Rumble. But however, we have short little tidbits on places like Apple and Spotify, some on YouTube. Apple and Spotify, there's probably another 15 million. Oh, pat yourself. I'm just telling you, like, all the doomer class that is like, oh man, that's going to be an abject failure. I guess you're just not correct. Because I don't bullshit people and never have. I was happy to serve. I was happy to come back, and I'm happy and honored to have this audience. However, the other side can't say the same. They're full of shit. I'm going to take a quick break here, but please don't go anywhere because this next clip by Peter Schweitzer on Fox is critical. I want you to understand why China, propaganda outlets, liberal D-bags, fake protesters are so committed to stopping these Iranian hostilities right now before it gets worse for China. China, yes. This clip is really important. Folks, this war right now in its very, very early stages is not just about Iran. It's about Russia and China too, and heading off a world war, not engaging in one. Schweitzer elegantly explains this in about a minute. So stay tuned, coming up right after this quick break. So Jasmine and I were talking about how our cars are basically a second office for us. She's always in her car too. Between driving to work, driving to meetings, and running the kids to school and games, we put some serious miles on both of our cars. And the more you rely on your car, the more you start thinking, okay, what happens when something goes wrong? So I told Jasmine, she manages the business here. I said, join me and sign up for Car Shield. The peace of mind it gives you when you depend on your car as much as we do is absolutely invaluable. Reduce your anxiety about car problems. Get Car Shield. It gives you 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, and rental car options at no extra cost. They work with ASE certified mechanics nationwide. Their plans are month to month. The deductibles are low, which is huge when you're already stressed. They've been doing this for 20 plus years. Car Shield. They protect over 2 million vehicles and boast a 96% customer review rating. Make a decision your wallet will love with Car Shield. Do it today. Car Shield is offering our audience 20% off. It's a big discount with the code Bongino, Bongino, at carshield.com. Visit carshield.com. Lock in your 2026 protection today. Protect yourself from those expensive car repairs you know are coming. Again, go to carshield.com, use code Bongino, and get 20% off. Thank you, CarShield. And our next sponsor today is Chapter. You fight every day for the country, for your family, and against the system stacked against you. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you fought for yourself? I've been trying to protect my aging family members, and one way to make sure they're on the right Medicare plan is using Chapter. Because if they're on Medicare, they may be overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. Some companies earn more by steering you into certain places, meaning your coverage could be shaped by their commission, not what's best for you. That's a fight you can win. It's an information fight, and you can win it. In under 20 minutes, Chapter is a Medicare advisor that's completely independent. They don't work for big insurance companies. They sit down with you, walk through every option, and help you find the plan that fits your needs. My audience has averaged $1,100 a year in savings by calling Chapter. That's money back in your wallet, in your pocket. That's a win you can actually feel. So dial pound 250 and say Medicare Help to speak with Chapter. That's pound 250, Medicare Help. 20 minutes, folks. One fight. You don't have to wait on Washington to win. Pound 250, say Medicare Help. Thank you, Chapter. We appreciate it. Okay, back to the show. Why do the Chinese CCP-aligned agitprop artists out there and other foreign governments as well have an interest in intervening in U.S. politics and a war decision involving Iran? Because that's their energy supplier, folks. This is really simple. You cannot power a China-based war machine in a war against Taiwan or anywhere else if you don't have power. No power, no war machine. You're not going to fuel tanks and planes with goodwill or fancy poems or tweets. You need petrochemicals. You need nuclear power, which requires nuclear fuel. You need all kinds of supply chain mechanisms to translate that power into movement, in jets and in ships and in people. If they don't have power, you can't power the war machine. Peter Schweitzer was on Fox just the other day talking about exactly this. This is why China needs this to stop now. They lose Iran, they lose access not only to Venezuelan power, which is already gone, and petrochemicals, but Iranian-based oil too, which is going to be a big double-barreled middle finger to the CCP. Check this out.
Donald Trump not only reshuffled the deck, he's laid the cards out for the players, and China now has a terrible hand. Think about this. China provided them their most advanced air defense systems to Iran, totally decimated by the United States and the Israelis. China's invested more than $100 billion in Iran, in industrial, energy projects, et cetera, much of that in loans to the Iranian government. They're not going to get that back. With both Venezuela and Iran, Donald Trump has effectively taken 20% of China's oil supply and reshuffled it. And here's the thing to remember. They were buying that oil as a discount because both Iran and Venezuela are sanctioned, and they were able to buy it not with U.S. dollars. One of their big goals has been to move away from the U.S. being the global currency. They're now going to have to go back into the global oil market and buy things with U.S. dollars. So this is a disaster for China on multiple stages, and Donald Trump has shifted the discussion that he's going to have with President Xi when they meet in China almost entirely.
This is critically important. Couple of pieces of information that came out of that. Tattoo on the brain. Now, instead of buying discounted sanctioned oil, they got cheaply because the Russians and others couldn't sell it anywhere else. So China said, well, you're going to sell it to us at this price, or you're not going to sell it at all. They're flipping them the double barrel. Now, all of a sudden, in Venezuela and Iran, that's gone. You still have the Russians. And the second part of it is just as important. The whole idea of a replacement currency for the United States dollar. The United States dollar is the world's reserve currency. Most major global transactions economically find their way somehow through the U.S. dollar. Every time that happens, it's like a free loan to the United States. You have no idea how bad it'll be if that were to collapse. Not in danger of collapsing anytime soon. If it did, interest rates would go through the roof. And it forces the Chinese Communist Party to have to deal with us and gives Donald Trump another chit to go and chit with a C, to bargain with when he meets with China's leadership in Xi. That's why they're so interested in agitprop and shutting this war down now, because they're seeing right now how badly this is going for them, no less the Iranians. This is why the fake bullshit narratives out there really tick me off. The narrative out there that the left and the foreign money and all the other bullshit is now tried to impose upon us that is totally fake. There's a war for Israel. That's total bullshit. I tweeted this out last night, and all the bots, and I get it. I've seen you. I know what you're doing. I understand how the whole process works with you losers. The bots came out in full. Paid for propagandists. I tweeted out last night, if you really believe like Donald Trump is getting walked into anything against his will, you don't know him, you've never worked for him, and you really suck at reading the tea leaves. Folks, Donald Trump's a lot of things to a lot of people, to his friends, his family, people who work for him. Getting walked into anything, I'm sorry, you're just a moron. He's going to do what he wants to do based on his analysis of the situation. And that's a fact. You're just spouting off on X elsewhere, elsewhere, just because you have no evidence to back that up. So ABC and others are jumping on this bandwagon now, taking a totally out of context Rubio statement. I'll show you in a second in a side-by-side. I saw his Nate Livingstone account put up. I'll show you how they took it totally out of context, and they take this fractured little bullshit line, oh, it's a war for Israel, and now they're exacerbating it everywhere, and you see all the doomer crowd running with this too. Here's Mary Bruce from ABC yesterday, still with this bullshit line. You can actually watch the Rubio clip yourself. We're going to play it side by side because he answered it again yesterday, and so did President Trump. It doesn't matter. They're still going to run with this because they think they can fracture the MAGA coalition on it. Check this out.
The president, first and foremost, is pushing back in that question by our Rachel Scott to this notion that Israel forced the U.S.'s hand here. And in doing so, he is directly contradicting what his own Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, told reporters yesterday. Marco Rubio said that the U.S. faced an imminent threat because Israel was about to attack Iran, and then Iran was poised to retaliate against the U.S. So the U.S. decided to strike first. The president is saying that's actually not the case. He says he might have forced Israel's hand. He says that Iran was going to strike first, saying, quote, it was my opinion that they were going to attack first.
You see how they can't stop? They have to just keep going with this. Rubio answered the question in the negative. Is this a war for Israel? His first words were no. She keeps going back to this. Well, Rubio said otherwise. You're just making that up. About a minute here, but this is worth it. Here is a side-by-side. If you're listening on Apple and Spotify, this is 2 days ago when the Rubio statement happened. And then yesterday, where Rubio again, for like the umpteenth time, has to educate these idiots that he never said this was a war for Israel at all. Just listen to what he said. Is this hard? I don't understand, guys. Like out there, the doomers. Is this hard? You can actually listen to what he said because he said it. And it's been recorded digitally forever. Here's the side-by-side. You decide for yourself. Check this out.
Yesterday, you told us that Israel was going to strike Iran and that's why we needed to get involved.
And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act. No?
Iran was going to get
Yeah, your statement is false. So that's not what I was asked very specifically. Did we go in because of Israel? And I said, you asked me that, that follow-up. And I said, no. I told you this had to happen anyway. But one is, no matter what, ultimately this operation needed to happen. That's the question of why now. But this operation needed to happen because Iran in about a year or a year and a half would cross the line of immunity, meaning they would have so many short-range missiles, so many drones, that no one could do anything about it because they could hold the whole world hostage. Look at the damage they're doing now. And this is a weakened Iran. Imagine a year from now. So that had to happen. Obviously, we were aware of Israeli intentions and understood what that would mean for us, and we had to be prepared to act as a result of it. But this had to happen no matter what. This was a question of timing, of why this had to happen as a joint operation, not the question of the intent. Once the president made a decision that negotiations were not going to work, that they were playing us on the negotiations, and that this was a threat that was untenable, the decision was made to strike them. That's what I said yesterday, and you guys need to play it. If you're going to play these statements, you need to play the whole statement, not clip it to reach a narrative that you want to do.
Hat tip Milk Bar TV on that. Folks, when you add the full statement, it's clear he said the opposite. This is not a war for Israel. This action was going to happen. The timeline may have moved up because of the very fortunate circumstance that the Mullah class of idiots decided to have a class meeting in one place in one day, so we didn't have to go hunt them down all over the country. That does not mean this is a war for Israel unless you're a cretin and too stupid to process information in a complex manner. How many times do they have to say this? Do you ever notice how the doomer class, they latch on to these issues in the exact same way the liberal media does? Does that not irk you a little bit? Why are liberal media people who hate us saying the same thing as the doomers? Because the doomers hate you too. It's not true. Here's President Trump yesterday. And by the way, I love how the doomers, they are such, I saw Ben Shapiro address this yesterday. I love how the doomers and the panicans, they're just so afraid because they're such cowards and chumps, and you get the rest. They're so afraid to take on President Trump because they don't have the balls, because they want to keep their grift going, that they dance around the edges again like President Trump has no agency whatsoever. President Trump is controlled. He's a puppet. But they'll never say that. Israel, Netanyahu, Israel. Well, who are they controlling? Somebody. Is it Trump? Oh, no, it's somebody. The man. Who's the man? They won't say it because they have no balls. So they attack surrogates. Rubio, Hegseth. They do this all the time. I saw it for a year. They have no balls. They mean President Trump, but they won't say it because they know they'll get crushed, and they want to keep the grift going. Here's President Trump yesterday telling you directly, this is no war for Israel. It's a war for us, and they've been a pretty damn good partner in it. Check this out.
Israel forced your hand to launch these strikes against Iran? Did that pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people, people that do this very successfully and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand.
Have balls, you coward grifter bums. Just say what you mean. Just say it. Just say what you mean. Grow a pair of testicles, you losers. You don't have the balls because you don't want the grift to dry up, and you know it. He's being walked around. Really? By who? What evidence do you have of that? By the way, if you read open source of it, I'm just telling you what I read in the Wall Street Journal. It's not any inside information at all. Been out for a couple months. They were actually planning an attack. It appears a month or a couple weeks ago, and I guess the conditions on the ground were not great, so they called it up. Was that Israel too? Folks, I can't say this enough too. Wait until the movie's over, until you judge the whole movie. You can't judge a book when you're only in chapter 6 of 12. You can't judge a movie 20 minutes in that's an hour and a half long. Last night, I did kind of a crazy story. I'm upstairs, and I had a channel on, a movie channel, and I wasn't paying attention because I was doing something work-related. And the next movie just comes on, whatever it was, Stars or whatever. And Stephen King, who, me and Stephen King have had some epic fights on Twitter, the author, of course, that Stephen King was at The Long Walk. And I'm like, I pull up to the movie after like 20 minutes. I don't know if you've seen it or not. These kids have to walk and they can't stop. If they stop walking, they get shot and only one person, whatever. So I'm only started paying attention about a half an hour in. So I see the ending of the movie. The movie was mildly interesting. One of the worst endings I think I've ever seen in my life. Now I can tell you, I'm not even telling that because it's Stephen King, whatever. I don't like the guy's politics, but if he writes good stories, it just would have made a good short story. It just didn't translate onto a movie screen at all. But I waited to the end. But I'm telling you also, I missed most of the beginning. Fair analysis, okay? So don't take my word for it. Maybe the beginning's so awesome, it overrides the shitty ending. Can you at least wait till the movie ends before you say the whole thing's a failure? The Jews did it. We did it for Israel. Donald Trump's got walked into this. It's all BS. Here's what I mean. Here's Kayleigh McEnany yesterday on Fox. Folks, the early stages. We're in the beginning stages. We're still at the beginning of the beginning. We're not even in the middle of the beginning. We're just a couple days in. People who have wanted to kill. First we get the Saturday people, then we get the Sunday people. People who've wanted to kill us, who've wanted to kill freedom-loving countries around the world for decades are now being unalived at an unprecedented rate. And it's not just Iranian mullahs. This was an important story yesterday about a general level, upper level hierarchy, Iranian proxy lunatic who was wiped out in Lebanon. And now the Lebanese government is fighting back against Hezbollah. We haven't seen that in eons. I don't understand what's wrong with that. You want Hezbollah that's actively killed hundreds of U.S. service people over decades. You want them to stay in existence for what? What do you want to play Monopoly with them? Did you miss this yesterday? This is big, dude. Tell me how this is a bad thing. Check this out.
Breaking news, the IDF telling Fox moments ago that they have eliminated Iran's top commander overseeing the Quds forces in Lebanon. Now, this individual is described as at the brigadier general level. As I mentioned, one of the highest commanders there, connecting Hezbollah with the Iranian terror regime. So this is a significant takedown in the strike on Tehran, and it's just the latest out of the Middle East.
That sounds terrible to me, guys. What are we going to do now? I mean, unaliving Lebanese brigadier generals and Hezbollah that's killed hundreds, if not, and casualty-wise, thousands of innocent citizens and U.S. soldiers and U.S. citizens throughout the years. That sounds really awful. We haven't, we're not even in the middle of the beginning. I'm just trying to keep you updated daily on the status of these war efforts so you can formulate through inputs an honest opinion about where we stand. I'm going to tell you something. Outside of this show and some other conservative shows out there, everything you're hearing on the media is complete, total bullshit outside of like Fox and Newsmax and other shows. It's total BS. I saw a guy last night on one of these networks talking about that guy McGregor, who's been wrong about just about everything. I don't know. The Iranians are performing quite well. Really, dude? How are they performing quite well? They're dead, bro. Performing quite well how? Through a freaking seance and a Ouija board? Are you on planet Earth? Has that guy ever been right about anything? I think I had him on a show once. I was like, what? Of course, the Iranians thought it was a good idea to attack the Saudis as well. Let's start another Sunni-Shia war. That's going to work out. And they figured, I think, that the Saudis would come out and say, oh my gosh, there's so much chaos. United States, stop what you're doing. We can't take this. Well, that's not working out either. You've got Hezbollah proxies, brigadier generals unalived. The mullahs all 6 feet deep, probably more than that after these bunker busters hit their facilities. Probably about 25 feet deep. And now you got the Saudis saying, hey, man, if we get in this, we're going to start hitting those targets too over and around. How is this working out for them? Please explain. You don't have to believe me. Here's some news reporting on it from Fox. Check this out.
Military and diplomatic sources in the region tell me Saudi Arabia is very close to allowing its Air Force to strike targets inside Iran after facing unprecedented missile and drone attacks on its civilians, including incoming missiles today targeting Daman, its 5th largest city. Quote, the next 24 hours is going to be intense, I'm told. A line has been crossed, a well-placed official in the Gulf tells me. What's truly extraordinary, Harris, about this development is that it would not have been possible if Israel had not been brought in under U.S. Central Command at the end of the first Trump administration. Carrying out airstrikes takes tremendous deconfliction and coordination. CENTCOM used to be attached, Israel used to be attached to the European Command due to sensitivities with the Arab states that did not recognize Israel. That changed with the Abraham Accords.
Folks, regardless of your opinion about the war, the point Jennifer Griffin just made at the end is critical. The EUCOM-CENTCOM distinction. I don't have a ton of time to go into it today, but look it up. It's not a small thing. There's a big message being sent there. This has not worked out in the beginning of the beginning. The movie's not over. I understand that at all for the Iranians. There is no portion of this they are winning. None. They're not winning the propaganda war. Receipts? I showed you the polling. They're not winning the air war. We own their skies. There's not a single Iranian fighter jet getting off the ground without being blown out of the skies. Yes, they've had some attacks against our diplomatic facilities overseas in Saudi, which has only encouraged regional partners to go and attack Iran, not us. There is nothing about this working out in their direction at all. Command, dead. Control, gone. Comms, non-existent. Someone said, well, why don't they just do Zoom after the leadership council was trying to pick a new leader, and then they got unalive too? Because if they do Zoom, maybe people kind of use that too. They have nothing. Thank you, Samantha Cost. So happy you're back, Dan. Everyone buy Rumble stock. Let's give BooTube the boot. Samantha Cost. Thank you. $20 tip. You don't have to tip the show, folks. I say it all the time. I really appreciate it. You guys are nice, but go buy yourself a good cup of coffee and one of those. What a Starbucks has those egg white sandwiches with turkey bacon I like. But thank you, Samantha. That's very nice of you. We appreciate it. Thank you guys for highlighting some of the great listeners in the Bongino Army. It shows about you guys too. Folks, here's a video we'll just play as voiceover material. I want you to show again how poorly this is going. So the Iranians have this problem, right? They have these ballistic missiles that they're using as a tactical gun to the head of regional partners. You mess with us, we're going to launch a ballistic missile and blow up portions of your country. That's what they're saying. The problem is we own the skies. So every time one of these mobile launchers pops up and launches a missile, the mobile launcher and the driver, as you can see, are unalive too. This is unclassified video from the Department of War. This did not work. Look at the car. I love how they play the end of it. Here's another launcher. That's gone too. You basically get one shot at this and then it's over. You not only have no more missiles, you have no more launchers. Oh, there's another one. If you're missing this on Apple and Spotify, watch the video. The mobile launch, let's get away. We'll drive down this road. No more road, no more launcher, no more dude driving the car. Or maybe it was a woman. I don't know. Maybe they have weird pronouns. Xi, Zhe, Zhou, Zhao. They're dead. Here's another one of the airport in Tehran. You're not going to see a lot of airport. You're going to see a whole lot of smoke coming from the airport as they hit the airport. They now have no airport. They don't even have the ability to get some jets or commercial aircraft off the ground to even resupply. So it looks like a lot of smoke. How is this again working out? I saw that again, that analyst, Iranians are performing quite well. Really, bro? Where exactly? Their fire extinguishers aren't even working that well. Here's another one I just pulled a few minutes ago. In the Indian Ocean, one of their ships, Iran's performing really well. Really? One of their, I guess, frigates was out there on the Indian Ocean. They thought, it's safe. It's the Indian Ocean. This is some unclassified video by the Department of War. You'll see, look at that shit. Wow. Is that the bow or the stern? That looks like the bow. Look at the, wow. Justin's like, is this video from Battleship, the movie? No, this is real. Oh my God. Wow. Look at it. Slow-mo. What is that? A water plume coming up? The Iranians are performing quite well. What a freaking moron. Yeah, it looks really, they're doing great. They're doing just great. You're sitting there in the Indian Ocean. You're one of these Iranian, terrorist mullah losers sitting there sunning your nuts on the bow. And then look at that. Look at that. Doesn't end well. That doesn't end well. Folks, this war is not going well for Iran. It is the beginning of the beginning. Can't say it enough. It doesn't go well. There are going to be, tragically, on a very serious note, and already have been, death and casualties. And thank you to these heroes and patriots for your eternal sacrifice. But this is not going well for Iran. And anyone telling you that is absolutely full of shit. They have no evidence to back that up at all. Folks, I want you to understand something, a little bit of a deeper analysis here. I saw this post yesterday by Joel Berry on X, and as I'm putting together the show, I just like to put together people who have interesting ideas, and this was interesting. And it harkens back, leave this up for a minute, guys, back to what I discussed in the opening week of the show, having been at the principal deputy level, how everything that gets to that level is a level 10 decision. He says in this X post, foreign policy is one area where everyone, no matter how brilliant they are on domestic issues, seems to have an equal chance of getting it wrong. Bingo. He says there are just too many variables we don't know. But it's astounding how many times Trump has turned out to be right. Okay. I need a second on this one. You can take that down, but I need a second on this one, guys. I'm going to explain a couple of things. He is 100% correct. How is it that so many brilliant PhDs over the years who've worked in the Department of State, Department of Defense, now Department of War, who've worked in international organizations, done diplomacy, took the FSO test, so many brilliant people have just made apocalyptically bad decisions on foreign policy? There's got to be a reason, right? I'm going to explain to you what it is. First, everything at that level, decisions to go to war or not, are level 10 decisions. I can't say it enough. Level 10 decisions at that level are shitty decisions and shittier decisions. Deciding which one is the shittier decision and avoiding it is really hard. We've talked about that. Everything at that level, the Rubio level, Patel, Ratcliffe, Gabbard, Bondi, the president, everything's level 10. At level 10 decision making, a lot of times your batting average just isn't great, but no one else's has been great either. Trump has an unusually high batting average, and I'm going to explain to you why. But I want to just kind of elaborate a second on what Joel Berry said. This is really important. Please don't go anywhere. The reason foreign policy is so difficult compared to domestic policy, two things I took note on from just my experience over time as both an activist and then on the inside there. Number one, you're dealing with human beings you just don't know. So when you're the Deputy Secretary of State dealing with a upper-level Russian diplomat on the START Treaty or open waters or open skies or whatever treaty it may be, you're dealing with someone you just don't know. You don't know. It's not a constituent in your district that knocks on your door every 5 minutes to talk about the fair tax. You may not want to talk about the fair tax, but you know what the person's about. You have a pretty good idea, correct? When you're dealing with Minister Lavrovsky or whatever it is, you don't know shit about him. Which segues to point number two, what you do know about him is probably a lie. So you're basing your game theory decisions, if I do this, then he is going to do that, on someone you don't know, who everything he tells you is probably a lie. What are you saying? International diplomacy is about lying? Of course it is. You think they tell you their true intentions? How is it Vladimir Putin snuck up on the whole world and invaded Ukraine? He never told anyone, hey, I'm going to invade Ukraine tomorrow at noon. He didn't announce it and put a neon sign up. Everything they tell you is a lie. That's why diplomatic batting averages on foreign policy are so low. It's not that PhDs are worthless. I mean, I think expertise is overrated, but it's not worthless. You're dealing with variables you can't control. You don't know people, and what you do know is a freaking lie. I mean, I sat in probably 20 or 30 meetings with foreign partners. Not bad people. They're protecting their countries, country X, just like I am. You know how many high-level meetings we had about drones and other things? But I fully understand they're not there always to tell me the truth. So why is Trump's batting average so unusually high? Abraham Accords, moving the embassy, Maduro. Why? Everybody, all the experts said World War III, all of this stuff is going to cause regional hostilities in World War III, but it didn't. But it didn't. Trump didn't have a PhD. Here's your answer. I was watching a clip of Michael Knowles this morning, and he hinted at this. I wrote this yesterday, so I think I'm stealing his stuff, but I do like the hat tip, how Trump deals with people, not institutions. But this portion I wrote yesterday, I was going to take it from a different angle, but I like his take on it. Trump is a New York transactional businessman, folks. He does not give a shit about what prior people did, what the institutions and white papers say. He is a New York business guy who I grew up, when I say I grew up with, I don't mean we were friends. I mean, when you grew up in New York like I did, from 1974 to I think 1999 when I left, most of my adult life was spent in New York City. I need you to understand Donald Trump was a fixture, almost like the de facto mayor of New York for decades. Everything he did from Wallman Rink to Trump Tower was in the newspaper all the time. Everything. Donald Trump, to build in New York, which was his business, real estate and construction and building and managing, he had to deal with really unsavory people. He had to deal with some union folks who were not, some of them were not the best. I'm not talking about the workers, I'm talking about the management. He had to deal with mob figures who would come in and try to shake him down. He had to deal with mayors and their staff who were terrible. Ed Koch, David Dinkins. I know I grew up with these buffoons before he had Giuliani in there, thankfully saving the place. He's dealt with unsavory cats his whole life. He just has a different antenna for dealing with people while he disregards institutions that have failed. Hat tip to Knowles on that portion of it. Folks, bookmark this segment of the show because what I'm telling you is true. He has an unusually high batting average because he is really, really good, as simply as stated as this, at sniffing out bullshit. He just reads people better. Folks, doing business in New York City is just different. I'm not telling you it's better or worse. I grew up there. My brother's a local 3 electrician up there. My father was a plumber up there. I spent my whole life up there. Doing business in New York is different. If you can't handle, at least back in the 80s before Giuliani cracked it up, unions, bureaucracies, the mayor, the mob, and everything else, you better get out of New York. I'll never forget the owner of a bagel store when I lived in Middle Village telling me that someone came in and told him, hey, what kind of, in New York, these businesses have to have private sanitation. The city doesn't pick up your garbage. You have to pay for a private company to do it. So he told me, he's like, yeah, this guy came in last week. And he said, hey, what sanitation are you using? And he said, whatever, sanitation company Y. And the guy, who was connected mob guy, by the way, some kind of soldier in a local mob in Middle Village, told him, I think you should use our company. And the guy was like, well, that's really expensive. And the guy said, yeah, you know what's expensive? Your place burning down. I'm not kidding. I tell you the guy's name and the bagel store, but I don't want to cause him any problems. That's what it's like. That's who Donald Trump had to deal with. He's just better at this. And his track record proves it. We'll see what happens with this. But so far, no, the Iranians are not doing well. That guy's totally full of shit. I don't know what part of that, where he got that from. That's just agitprop bullshit. Folks, the media continues to crash out, of course, because the public is on President Trump's side, that the Iranians are an enemy, and the polling data proves it. The Republican Party is united over it, and the media crashes out because they hate that, because they, along with the CCP and other foreign adversaries and the doomer class here, wants to divide our movement. We built it, you and I, and we're not going to let it happen. Here is the most ridiculous segment of the day. Here is Chris Hayes at MSNBC, just a moron. Another one of these, white paper looking, writing D-bags who knows nothing about nothing. I'm not sure this guy's ever had a significant job his entire life. Ridiculously making the comparison between air power dominance over the death to America mullah class, trying to build a nuclear weapon to kill people like Chris Hayes and everyone else. Making a comparison between us being attacked on 9/11 and us attacking someone trying to achieve a nuclear weapon to kill us using the same ideology used on 9/11. No, this actually happened. Check this out.
But outside these borders, war is having a bomb dropped on your daughter's elementary school, seeing some alert or getting a panicked call, or on your apartment building or the hospital where you are receiving care. Death from above. And when you only view war through our perspective, the understanding the bombs are never coming for us, it becomes nothing more than an abstraction. It gets far too easy to wave away the loss of human life. It's priced in. It's the cost of doing business. Remember, there was one instance in my lifetime when we in America experienced death from above. September 11, 2001, one of the darkest days I've ever been through, that we've all ever been through. The shared trauma from that one day caused a decades-long shift in American culture and foreign policy and American politics. It defined multiple generations. For us, that kind of violence is an anomaly. It is a once-in-a-lifetime tragedy. For other people in other countries, the terror is commonplace. Because, in part, of the kinds of war of aggression that Donald Trump just started.
Folks, I took a few notes on this yesterday as I watched it. This is such third grade level at best analysis of the complexities of war and hostilities that honestly, if you ever took this guy seriously, which no one in my chat did, I saw a couple people in the chat just filleting this idiot, you should now disregard him now as an unserious person. Number one, nobody, me 100% included, is downplaying the cost in human lives. No one. However, when you're analyzing war now or throughout human history, where Indian tribes have gone to war, countries have gone to war, nation states have gone to war, tribes and clans have gone to war. This has happened throughout human history. We're not living in some Aesop's fable or some Pollyanna-ish world or utopia, you dipshit. We're living in a world full of evil, full of complicated decision-making, where good people have to do sometimes complicated and difficult things, like choose violence to stop greater violence. This is such a third-grade level analysis. He absolves himself of asking basic questions, like first, comparing us engaging in hostilities in Iran and war actions to stop them from potentially creating a nuclear weapon to destroy us, comparing that to us being attacked brutally on 9/11, thousands of deaths. Number one, when you're analyzing violence, nation-state violence, who's doing the killing? I can tell you who killed us on 9/11. A bunch of Islamo-radical fanatics who deliberately targeted innocent lives. The World Trade Center was not a military facility. Not that that would make it any better. But who was killing us? A bunch of radical, crazed lunatics. Who is doing the killing on our end? A trained professional army trained to do their best to avoid civilian casualties. Does that even matter, Chris Hayes? Or are you too stupid to process that? Number two, who's being targeted? Does this matter in your war calculus? 9/11, I can tell you who was being targeted. A bunch of innocent people who went to work one day, and thousands of them died. Some of them fell to their deaths from hundreds of stories up, burned alive. Many killed on impact. Civilians. Who's being targeted by our military and the IDF over there? Military targets. Civilian casualties are secondary and not wanted at all. And there's at least an attempt to avoid them. Are you too stupid to process any of this? And who's being killed? We have a bunch of Iranian mullahs declaring death to America, where if this D-bag, Chris Hayes, went and tried to record his show over there in Iran, he'd be filleted and decapitated in 10 minutes. Those are the people we're killing. Who are they killing? Remember the Achille Lauro? Remember all the planes they've taken down, the IEDs, the VBIEDs, the Beirut embassy, the Marine barracks? I mean, does this idiot not know about 9/11? I mean, is he serious? Folks, this stuff is Bush League amateur hour bullshit. And these people's opinions, whether it's the other guy, Iran's doing quite well, you're an idiot. Or this guy, we should compare this to 9/11. We're doing the same thing. You're a dipshit. Your cerebral cognitive network has about one functioning neuron left. It's the dumbest thing I've heard all day. All right, folks, I'm going to take a quick break, and then I've got a guest for you coming up, my good friend Shawn Davis from the Federalist. We're going to talk about a lot of things here. We're going to talk, obviously, about what's going on in Iran. We're going to talk about CCP influence and how they're trying to lay down a big schism in our movement. We're not going to let them. We're going to talk about the SAVE Act and the filibuster. I know Shawn's got a different opinion than I do, but I know he articulates it well. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about 2028 because the Democrat lineup in 2028 looks pretty shitty to me. But he's talking about the Republican, schism in the Republican Party. Are you going to run Newsom? What's he going to run on? California? The U-Haul rates? Kamala Harris? She going to run the cackler? Good luck. Folks, when spring rolls around, I always get the urge to reset everything. You know, spring cleaning like everyone else, just get life running a little smoother. And honestly, the one upgrade that made the biggest difference wasn't a gadget or some organizing system. It was the Helix mattress. I sleep on one of these everywhere I go. Here's the only problem with the Helix mattress. When you go travel on the road and you go in a hotel, I promise you're going to be like, I need to get home with my Helix mattress. That's the only downside. I've had mine for quite a while. I've been to a couple now. I had one in DC as well. It has genuinely transformed my sleep, and a good night's sleep is so restorative for your mental health, your physical health, me for this horrendous arthritis I'm dealing with. Before Helix, nights were rough. Wake up with a tight back. I had a mattress before I didn't like, overheating, and anytime I shifted even a little bit, Paul would wake up, what are you doing? But once I switched to Helix, it was like night and day. HELIX. Here's what you do. Take their sleep quiz so they can customize a mattress to you. I got paired with the perfect sleep for how I sleep on a mattress. And within the first week, I could feel the difference. My body was more relaxed at night. Helix mattresses. Now I'm waking up refreshed instead of dragging myself out of bed. It's wild how much better the entire day feels. Helix has an exclusive deal right now for my audience, so go check it out. Get 27% off site-wide. That's a big savings by going to helixsleep.com/Dan. That's HELIX. Do it today. Sleep better at night. Go to helixsleep.com/Dan for 27% off site-wide. Make sure you enter our show name at checkout so they know the Dan Bongino Show sent you. Go check it out, folks. Get a good night's sleep. helixsleep.com/Dan. Welcome to the show today. For those of you who listen to the Dan Bongino Show, you know he's my good friend, one of the best analysts out there, a guy I really appreciate. TheFederalist.com, the website he runs out there, bookmark it. It's really great for analysis. My friend Shawn Davis. Shawn, thanks for spending some time with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, of course, man. We had you all the time on the radio show. You're one of our most popular guests. Listen, the hostilities and the war in Iran going on right now. Obviously, we are Republicans. We're not Democrats. We're not automatons. I actually appreciate that there are wide swaths of opinion within the party. It keeps everybody honest. However, one of the things I covered earlier in the show is foreign governments are clearly taking advantage of the situation. I played a video earlier in the show of some funded protests by liberal groups that are really trying to take advantage of divisions within the Republican Party. Division's great, but I think we can all agree that this CCP propaganda exercise, this is kind of out of bounds.
Yeah, and I don't think it's just the CCP. I mean, you see all these accounts in Europe and in Asia posting AI slop, fake videos of. Right. I saw one this morning which had huge traction of allegedly Iran sinking the U.S. Navy. Like, it's so absurd. It's so obviously fake. And yet you have these scores and scores of obviously foreign accounts posting things that are obviously fake. It is a problem. And it's been a problem we've had for a long time, which is foreign governments who hate us posting nonsense and trying to divide us by posting lies and getting us to buy into them.
And one of the reasons it's obvious why I'm concerned about foreign influence in our politics. There were rules against that. You have FARA and other things. You're allowed to have an opinion. You're actually legally, of course, allowed to lobby on behalf of a foreign government. It's a republic. You're just not allowed to do it without registering if you're doing that. You just have to tell everyone. And a lot of that is not happening. And the democratization of information on social media has made it really easy to put agitprop out there. And one of the things that concerns me, though, specifically about China, is this attack on Iran, where we've really kind of decapitated their leadership. And now we've kind of iced out China's one of their energy suppliers, them in Venezuela. This is kind of a proxy fight too. China obviously has goals, some would say by 2027, to jump the strait and take over Taiwan. I think this is going to make them hopefully think twice about that, because to power a war machine, as you know, Shawn, you need power. And now outside of Russia and some small deposits they have with other countries, they're really going to have an issue getting their energy supplies to do that. And I'm sure that factored in to the president's analysis on when and how to decapitate this regime.
Yeah, I think I've read that China gets something like 15 to 20% of its oil combined from Venezuela and Iran. So it's not all of it, but it's also not nothing. That's a really big chunk. Now, the question is, are they able to just go on the open market and buy it? Are they going to be able to get it from Russia? Does Russia have the type of crude that they need in China? Because obviously there's different types of oil that can create challenges in refining. And you nailed it. You said a country has to have energy to power its war machine. It also needs money. And one thing we've not done a good job in the U.S. of doing is starving China of that money. In over the last, I'd say 50 years, we've actually been the number one funder of that war machine. They have built their war machine with American dollars sent to them through offshoring and outsourcing and buying cheap Chinese crap. I really, really wish the politicians in our country were serious about tackling China, and more than just military means. You have to cut off the thing that's making them the behemoth they are, which is international trade and American trade. And so I think we need a multifaceted effort. You can't just be going after the energy. You have to do all of the above. And I think Trump has done a wonderful job of that. I think that's a major reason he's had a lot of his tariffs. Unfortunately, we have a Congress that doesn't seem to be interested in doing much of anything other than just sitting back and watching and hoping for the best.
You know, Shawn, I'm glad you brought that up. It wasn't one of my intended questions, but me being a conservatarian, especially on the economic front, you know, obviously I'm a believer in free and fair trade. The problem we've had with China is you can throw that model out the window because, one, the trade isn't fair. They steal our IP or intellectual property all the time. There's nothing fair about that. But second, whether it's the WTO or their entrance into very specific trade agreements and world trade in general, they've used that to create a war machine specifically targeted at one, taking over Taiwan and potentially starting a real World War III. That's what really concerns me is if you don't take that national security component into the trade situation, especially with regards to quantum computing and AI, you can talk all the stuff you want about, oh, great, you know, free and fair trade, whatever. You're not going to sell swords to your enemy to come and siege your castle. And essentially, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and not only that, not only have we been selling them the things they need and giving them, maybe not intentionally, they steal it, the technology they need, we've been giving them all this money. And even worse, we're dependent on them for things. We're dependent upon India for a lot of pharmaceuticals. We're dependent upon Russia and Ukraine for a lot of fertilizer and farm goods. You can't have national security if you're not able to manufacture your own food, your own medicine, your own weapons, your own vehicles in your own country. And it's a thing that's just driven me absolutely insane. It is so obvious that if everyone else controls your ability to make something, then those countries control you completely. Yeah. And the sooner we become an independent country again, the sooner we make things in America again, the sooner we'll be able to actually confront with strength the threat that China poses to the world.
You know, that's a great analysis. I mean, when you start discussing things like antibiotics, you know, an ability to at least make steel. We don't have to be the world leader in steel, but an ability to make kind of important in combat. We have to look at it different in this now polarized world. And that's why I think President Trump's focus on what they've kind of jokingly called the Don Roe doctrine, I think is smart. If we can't even dominate our own hemisphere, we have no chance of taking on, you know, Russia, China, and formerly the leadership of Iran. Shawn, I'd be remiss. You worked up in the Senate. You understand the mechanics better than anyone. The SAVE Act and the filibuster. The SAVE Act, which would institute voter integrity measures across the country. And I'm not going to say prevent cheating, but obviously dramatically reduce it. Critically important. We can't seem to get past this 60-vote hurdle in the Senate, known as the filibuster and cloture votes. The Democrats have already said multiple times they're going to scrap the filibuster. Again, I understand there are differences of opinion. I've said I think we scrap it before them. I know your opinion on it and others I've had on the show is a little bit different, but I want the audience to hear both sides of it. You know, your thoughts on first the SAVE Act and then dumping the filibuster to get it passed or dumping the filibuster in general.
Yeah, so the SAVE Act, the Save America Act, whichever version you're looking at, is essential. You really can't have Homeland Security without election security. And right now, Democrats are being able to block it, not by filibustering, but by doing nothing. And there's this culture of laziness in the Senate where you have cloture to end debate. The problem is debate never actually begins because the Senate allows itself to operate on what my friends and I call the zombie filibuster. All a Democrat has to do is pick up the phone and call the cloakroom and say, hey, I want you to put a hold on this. And they say, oh, okay. And then the Senate, the Republicans will look at the numbers and say, oh, well, some Democrats want to filibuster this. So I guess that's it. We're not going to do anything. And that's not the traditional practice of the Senate. And there actually is a means by which you can break this 60 threshold and preserve the filibuster at the same time. And the way you do this is by forcing Democrats to come down, control the floor, and actually speak on and on and on. And you can actually exhaust their filibuster because under Senate rules, a senator can only give 2 speeches in one legislative day. And in the Senate, when you're debating a bill, you can keep it in the legislative day. So you can actually force them to come down once they've each made their 2 speeches. They probably don't even come close to that. Debate just naturally ends. I liken it to waking up from a nap. When you wake up from the nap is just over. You don't have to do something proactive to end it. And with this procedure called the talking filibuster, You make them filibuster and you make them exhaust it until the process naturally ends. And when it ends, you have a vote on the merits, and that's a majority vote. And so one reason I actually support keeping the filibuster right now is if you can change the culture of the Senate to actually make people have to talk, you can preserve that bit of obstruction that you might want to have to make it hard on them without eliminating it entirely. And I understand that people say, oh, Democrats will just change it when they get in. They might if they have the votes. They didn't previously have the votes, even though they had a majority. And I would rather raise the possibility of keeping it to above zero than just getting rid of it entirely in an environment where Republicans don't even want to do anything anyway. I'm not sure there's 51 votes for much of anything if we were to nuke it overnight. And I would hate to make it so easy for Democrats that they can just waltz in instead of actually having to work to get rid of it.
Yeah, I understand. And I respect a lot of opinions on it. Brandon Gill, great congressman from Texas, has a similar approach. Mike Lee has led down that pathway too. Hugh Hewitt's wrote some interesting op-eds on this. The only issue I would have with that, and everything you said, by the way, is absolutely accurate. Given a perfect world, you definitely want the Senate to be a cooling chamber against big government because the Democrats are better. They're just better at big government than us. Let's just be honest. We haven't been great on it either, but they're much better. They'll spend anything all the time. Is Sinema and Manchin, the two senators, I know you know this, who were against it and stopped it, are no longer there. Now, I think where you're going, and tell me if I'm right or wrong. I think what you're saying is I think they kind of always knew Sinema and Manchin would be against it, so what some of them can comfortably vote to scrap it. But now without them there, are you hinting that they may be uncomfortable now that they know their votes would matter, these Democrats, that they may err towards a talking filibuster rather than scrapping it?
I think so. I mean, I look at Fetterman. I'm not sure Fetterman is a guaranteed vote to kill the filibuster. And given that J.D. Vance will still be vice president, Republicans will still hold. Democrats don't need 50. They technically need 51. They may need 52 or 53, depending on someone who kind of gets cold feet when nuking the filibuster gets real. And if we go ahead and nuke it now, and they only end up with, say, 50 or 51 votes, they may not have had the ability to nuke it. And instead, we went and did their hard work for them. And again, it comes from, I just don't trust Senate Republicans to do anything. If you put the SAVE Act on the floor right now, I'm not sure there actually would be 50 votes for it. I think that's why they're doing this hemming and hawing and trying to rig it against it, is that John Thune doesn't want to put people like Lisa Murkowski or Susan Collins on the hot seat and watch them vote against it. So I think there's a lot of dishonesty coming from Senate Republicans. I just don't want to do the easy work for Democrats so they don't have to pay any penalty for what they're wanting to do. I think we should make it very, very hard for them to do that, especially if, as I believe, they don't actually have the votes for it.
Yeah. We're talking to Shawn Davis, SEAN. Look him up on social media. Runs The Federalist. It's thefederalist.com. Always a great guest with the behind the scenes. Shawn, you said something on my radio show a couple years ago, and my audience still remembers it to this day. It was probably one of your, you've had a lot of profound insights, but this was one of your best. You said, Dan, people don't win elections, ballots win elections. And those aren't always the same thing. That is why, just going back to the SAVE Act for a moment, given this mass ballot harvesting, which we know is a scam, combine it with mass mail-in balloting, where you just get a ballot whether you request it or not in a state like California or elsewhere. You know as well as I do. You've got, some poor 80-year-old grandma didn't request a ballot at all. At the later stages of her life, they've got all kinds of things going on. The grandkids. A ballot goes to some mailroom. It's intercepted. Someone signs it, brings it back in some harvesting thing. If she doesn't complain and doesn't check her vote status that somebody voted for her, you have no idea. The scale of the fraud is, when I say this, I mean it in a literal sense, could be immeasurable. We've got to get a hold of this with the SAVE Act, or like you said, you're not going to have a republic if there's no fidelity to the mechanisms, how we get to a representative democracy in the first place.
Yeah, and there's a reason Democrats oppose it. There is a reason they oppose voter ID. There's a reason they oppose required vote in person. And it's because all these things make it easy for them to cheat. We all know why why they're doing it. It's why they were so adamant during COVID. We got to lock everyone down, force people at home, because then that gives us the pretext we need to do universal mail-in balloting, which they can then take over, harvest bazillions of votes, have their states refuse to do signature matching or anything like that. They oppose these things because they need this stuff in place so they can cheat. And it just boggles my mind to watch Republicans in the Senate, particularly, just sit back and be like, well, yeah, that's fine. We'll let them do that. You can't have a free country if you don't have secure elections.
Right. And, I've said over and over, I don't want cheating that benefits the Republican Party either. I think that's fairly obvious. If no one has faith in the elections, you're not going to have a republic. You're just not. And no one's going to believe it, and you're going to have anarchy. Speaking of elections, midterm analysis in 2028, I'll kind of bundle it into one. There's all kinds of, I never get into kind of red wave or blue wave stuff. I did not. Matter of fact, it was a joke on my show when everyone was predicting a huge red wave last time. I don't want to hear it. There's no benefit to our party in talking about that. If you really believe we're going to win in some kind of red wave, you're not going to show up. I like to just say, hey, just show up and do your thing. Forget all. But analysis does matter. Obviously, they've had some successes in special elections. Off years, you had Virginia, New Jersey, gubernatorials. We did not fare very well. When Donald Trump isn't on the ballot, there seems to be some down ballot issues. Your thoughts on the midterms? And then just secondly, on 2028, the Democrats, I think, are in a lot of trouble too. I mean, we have a really solid bench of people. You've got both JD and Marco Rubio. They've got Gavin Newsom and Kamala. I mean, you're really going to run on California and then Kamala Harris again? Unless they get someone out of the bullpen coming out to like Enter Sandman or something like Mariano Rivera. I don't see 2028 looking glorious for them either.
Yeah, you got to run like you're 10 points behind, regardless of what the polls say. If you run like your hair's on fire, which for me is tricky now because I don't have much left, you're going to do much better. But when I'm kind of looking at what the map looks like, what the messages are, I'm very worried about Republicans because it's Donald Trump's not on the ballot. He's not going to save you, John Thune. He's not going to save you, Mike Johnson. There are people who will come out to vote only when Donald Trump is on the ballot on the right. And the struggle we have is that Democrats are jacked up because they hate Trump. They hate Republicans. They enjoy watching their opponents get murdered and shot at. They're jacked up for this. They've got all the enthusiasm. But when you look at the right, you have to ask yourself, what have congressional Republicans done to give Republican base a reason to come out and vote for them beyond, oh, look, I'm just not a Democrat? What have they accomplished? What is their message? I can't tell you right now, and I do this for a living, what the congressional Republican message is for the midterms. They seem completely adrift, completely lazy. They're not focused on anything. Luckily, in politics, 8-9 months is an eternity, so they have more than enough time to turn around. But if they don't stop steering that ship or start steering that ship in a different direction soon, I think they're in for a world of hurt because you have to give people a reason to vote for you. You can't just go out and say, I'm not the other guy.
Talking to Shawn Davis from The Federalist, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. Shawn, last question. I always appreciate your time and your analysis. Ruben Gallego, Arizona senator, has already stated, I believe to Semaphore, with the two corporations, not a veiled threat, just an overt threat. Hey, corporations, like, we're coming for you if we win back the House. I mean, the weaponization of the government that took 20 years. We had obviously my experience, we had the Wray, Comey, even Mueller eras. The weaponization of the government, I saw it from behind the scenes, but it's not just FBI. It was the use of intelligence assets, CIA, DNI, bureaucracies, the FCC, the FEC, the SEC, the Labor Relations Board. I mean, you follow this as well as I. Thank God Trump just cleaned that up. I saw an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal last night. But the weaponization of government took a long time. I'm very concerned that the cleanup process is what I'm getting at. Sorry for the long-winded question, but the cleanup process is not going to take a year or 2 years. It's not. Deep state embeds don't just announce themselves. They hide and they wait. It's going to take 4 to 8 years. And I'm not telling you, trust the plan. I don't get into any of that stuff. It's just obvious. It took 20 years to do this. It's going to take a long time. We lose these midterms. We're in a world of trouble. The Democrats ain't kidding around.
No, they're not. And I saw people after the 2024 election go out and beat their chest and say, woke is dead. Woke is dead. No, it's not. Woke is waiting. Okay, these people are not dead. They're not gone. They are plotting. They're waiting. And when they come back, they are going to be even more vicious than they were before. Because losing didn't get them to take a measured look at themselves and say, we should be better. No. They're looking at it and saying, we had the opportunity to crush them and we didn't take it. So we need to destroy them. We need to wipe them out. That's why we saw so many people on the left cheer when Charlie was assassinated. It's why we saw people on the left say, oh man, I wish that guy didn't miss in Butler. Okay, these people are hell-bent on taking power and crushing us, not just winning politically. They want to destroy us. They're coming after us. They came after you. They came after me. I'm still suing the State Department over what they tried to do to my business with their censorship and their lawfare. And these people are never going to stop. So I look at this, and for us, it's a cliche that the next election's the most important one. It really is true, though. This is existential for us. They are going to come after us, and they're going to destroy us, and they're going to laugh at us the whole way if we don't win and stamp out this nonsense once and for all.
Man, you've got some great one-liners. You're up there with Kennedy from Louisiana. Ballots win elections, not people. Woke is waiting. I'm going to write that down when we get off the air to not distract the audience, but I will footnote it to you, of course. But you're correct. Woke is not even close to dead. It's just sitting there waiting. You are absolutely right. Shawn Davis, thefederalist.com is the website. SEAN. Look him up on social media. Follow him for some really great analysis. You've always been a great friend to the movement and to me, Shawn. I really appreciate it. You're welcome back anytime. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, sir. So glad to have you back, too.
Thank you, buddy. Shawn Davis, folks, The Federalist. Check him out. We try to bring you the best guests, and I really appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying the guest segment. I hope you're enjoying the show, folks. We added 10,000 more followers on Rumble. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It is free. It is free to do it. I showed a nice woman in a restaurant last week how to do it. You go to, if you want to watch on the web, rumble.com/Bongino, Bongino. Just type it in, hit go, and you'll see that follow button. Click follow if you would. You'll get a notification for our show. Goes live every day exclusively here, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. The Dan Bongino Show, rumble.com/Bongino. We are going to raid the Steven Crowder show afterwards. You can follow Steven Crowder here as well, too. He has an excellent show, one of the top live streamers in the world. And then, of course, you have Haley coming up at noon, rumble.com/Haley. And then at 8 a.m. every day, you have the great Vince Colonnese, rumble.com/Vince. You can also check them out at Bongino Report on Rumble. Thank you, folks, so much. We're crossing now. We just passed 25 million views since we've been back, despite the doomers and everyone else predicting otherwise. The Bongino army is as strong as ever. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I owe it all to you. Follow us on Apple and Spotify as well. You can get the audio version only of the show there, rumble.com/Bongino. See you back here tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Hey there, I'm Vince.
I'm Haley Carania.
Host of Vince.
Host of Scrolling with Haley.
You can always catch my show right here.
Right here on the Bongino Report channel.
Live, 8 a.m. Eastern, weekday mornings.
Noon weekdays. And if you miss it, no worries. The show will always be right here and anywhere you find a podcast. Thanks for watching.